about if I say the pledge and everyone just silently says it, because otherwise with the delay, we get crazy. So
Okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Welcome everyone to our meeting, and we will begin with introductions of the board members. I'm Kathy Becker. Vince?
Vince Greiner, good evening.
Shirley?
Shirley Chancellor. Hi.
Hi. Mark?
Mark Forner.
Ellen?
Ellen Kearns.
Pat?
Pat Collins.
Thank you. We need approval of our agenda as presented.
So moved.
Support.
Motion's made and supported. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We need approval of our consent agenda. This evening it consists of payment of bills for the December 1st, 2020, minutes of our regular meeting, a resignation and acceptance of the two grants, the MDE CTE Perkins and MDE preschool grant.
So moved.
Support. Second.
Motion's made and supported, and now we'll begin with roll call vote, simply because that's the best way for Tracy to record that. So Shirley?
Yes.
Pat?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Vince?
Yes.
Ellen?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Dr. Jeffrey, you have a report for us?
I sure do. Good evening, everybody, and happy December 1st. It's hard to believe that we're already to the month of December, but we are. This month, we're going to begin with the academic spotlight, and that involves career and technical education. Before I hand it over to Dale, I just wanted to take a minute and recognize our CTE teachers and our paraprofessionals. These folks, as you know, are planners and they are doers. And right now they are working through some challenges in terms of trying to deliver contextual instruction via distance learning. And I think they're doing a really outstanding job. These folks knew that this day was coming, and so they're prepared. And I think it's appropriate that we're talking about a spotlight because they're really shining right now with some difficult circumstances. And I think, in addition to maybe recognizing our CTE staff just a little bit before we get to the spotlight, it's pretty tough to talk about our career and technical education programs without talking about our outstanding partner in West Shore Community College. And we are really grateful for the collaboration with the college, and they're going to be part of the presentation. So you'll get to hear a little bit more about that. But just with that brief introduction, I want to turn it over to Dale and let him kind of set the stage for the spotlight. Dale?
Well, thank you, Dr. Jeffrey, and good evening, everyone. We enjoy a great situation that few tech centers in our state get to have. That is operating in the same space as our post-secondary partner, in our case, of course, West Shore Community College. This gives us unique opportunities not only to share facilities and equipment, but to create synergy with programs and human capital. And here's one such opportunity we want to inform you about tonight. Dr. Mark Kinney, West Shore Vice President of Academic and Student Services, has been working on a plan to upgrade lab space with state-of-the-art robotics equipment and curriculum. And we share that vision because it aligns with the direction we want to take our mechatronics program. So I'd like to invite Dr. Kinney to explain to the board what's potentially in the works here. Dr. Kinney?
Yeah, thank you. Nice to see you all virtually. My name's Mark Kinney, as Dale Horowski mentioned, and I'm the Vice President for Academics and Student Services at West Shore. I have a pretty long history of working with Michigan Tech University, and I'm trying to continue that partnership at West Shore Community College by partnering with them for their electrical engineering technician program. And so what that is, as you know, the advanced manufacturing sector in our area has continued to grow and become more automated in recent years. And so West Shore Community College is looking to provide opportunities for our students and for CTE students to get skill sets within that area and be able to get careers within that sector. So with Michigan Tech University, we have a wonderful opportunity where students could potentially start in robotics training at the CTE. They could probably get entry-level positions by exiting at that point with their robotics training, but we could build an associate's degree with West Shore Community College for students to get additional robotics training, including with vision systems. Again, they could exit at that point and get a career, or they could continue on to Michigan Tech University. We would transfer that entire associate's degree up to them, and they'd be able to enter into their electrical engineering technician program to get a bachelor's degree or even a master's in mechatronics from them. And so we're in the process of purchasing some robots and finding funding. We've approached different employers in the area. We've attempted to write some grants to get some funding. But we're in the process of expanding our lab and our curriculum so that students would be able to take advantage of this. And furthermore, we have some really great plans with Michigan Tech, not only through articulation, but some of the interesting opportunities we've developed with them is the idea of a teleoperated robot. Whereas right now in a robotics lab, students would have to come to campus to actually work on the robot and get that training. We have a prototype developed where we would be able to control that robot remotely, which means that all of the local school districts could also potentially control that robot remotely, which means that we could provide training through not only simulations, but actual controlling of the robot from a local school district or from a different community college. So it gives us all kinds of opportunities to provide that training to people, even if they physically can't come to Scottville to control the robot. And Michigan Tech would be involved in designing and deploying that and providing a lot of the curriculum. So right now, again, we're in the process of procuring those and trying to identify a way for us to fund that. We're looking at the FANUC robots primarily, but are considering Yaskawa as well, since that's what Whitehall Industries has standardized on. And then we've worked with Matt Scott at the CTE to begin to identify ways where we can create a program so that the CTE students would have a seamless transition into West Shore. So overall, we feel this is a necessary way that industry is progressing, and a necessary skill set for students in our area. And we're very happy that we're able to partner with not only Michigan Tech, but our local West Shore ESD to provide this training in the near future. Does anybody have any questions for me?
I don't hear any. Wonderful information. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Well, thank you, Dr. Kinney. Really appreciate it. This is exciting. It's really got us energized here at CTE, looking at this potential. And I'll talk a little bit more about how that tie-in would look for us. But right now, I'd like to take us on a virtual visit to the mechatronics lab. So we're going to go on site to instructor Matt Scott and his paraprofessional, Jesse Mosier, and show you what's going on with the robotics elements in the class right now, so you can get a sense of the potential that we're talking about and what this space actually looks like. So Matt and Jesse, are you with us?
I am here, Dale. Jesse's here too. Welcome, ESD board members. I really appreciate this opportunity to talk about what we have in the classroom, what our facilities have looked like, and hoping to tie in with West Shore Community College as far as these endeavors and programs for students in furthering their careers or their training. So I have to the left of me, Reginald the robot. And I'm going to get Reginald started in his routine. We did a coin drive through Student Council CTE, and one of the students, Justice Bromley from G2S, made this program after only having a couple hours worth of training on it on certification. So I'm going to start the program and then I'll talk about it too. So Reginald was set up over the Halloween timeframe to do a coin drive, and between Justice and Kyler Garrow from Ludington, they made this program so that students could come out into the atrium, donate coins for the coin drive, and then come back for a collection as an automated response. So it took about 2 hours to get their online training certification. Beyond that, they were able to sit down in front of the robot and start training. And we were really blessed to have everyone face to face and be tactile with the robot at the very beginning of the school year so that they could start this process. Learning how to program a robot like Reginald here is very user-friendly. It's on a touch screen similar to what I have here. This is how we teach the robot where to go and what to do. And so it's very friendly and safe to work around students because there is no guarding around this robot. So I just kind of wanted to point that out. We had a fun time with this, but unfortunately the coin drive ended about at the same time that we were going virtual. So it was really good. As soon as the students get back, I believe we're going to have some time where I can start breaking the students down into small groups and they can all start programming, because that's been one of their virtual activities now, is to online, everybody's required to go through that e-learning training on the robot. So in theory, when everybody comes back face to face, they'll have their certificates and they can go and start working with programming Reginald. Okay, I'm going to move on in the space of the lab to show you some other robots that we have. So over here to my left, these are the FANUC robots, and one to the right. The one on the left is doing a materials sorting or pick and place. So these are industry standard robots. They are able to manipulate large items, extremely heavy and precise accuracy with them. But we can also end up with industry certified training on these. So as Dr. Mark Kinney was talking about, what we can do is partnership with West Shore and be able to, as either a CTE or a West Shore Community College student, have other recognized industry certificates for these robots. So this one is pick and place. The one to my right is a welding robot that the ESD has purchased through the welding program. And Steve Bienick and myself are going to work with the students on programming our second-year students on the welding aspects of robotics. So I'd like to invite you over, Mr. Moser, so that we can welcome you in. For the board members that haven't had a chance to see Mr. Moser, this is Jesse Moser. He's our new mechatronics parapro. So I'd like for you guys to welcome him aboard.
Welcome.
Very happy to be here in front of you today. As someone who went through the tech prep program 20 years ago, I know that it works, I believe in it, and I'm happy to be sharing my industry experience with the current students and those coming up in the future. I think we have a lot of potential here, and I'm really excited to share it with everyone.
He's an awesome cameraman too, so.
Thank you.
Yes. So I'm going to keep working around in my space. We have just added this new robot over here. So this is called an Epson Scara robot. It is powered by just a simple PC. So in this case, it's a small mini laptop. And it only has 3 axes. So the other robots that you've looked at in the lab are all 6-axis. They're a little bit more complex. This is mainly made for materials sorting. It's a very fast and very efficient robot at doing what it does. So the students will actually code on the keyboard as opposed to the other types of robots that we have. We would be creating code on this. We don't have training on it yet. Once we maybe get released to travel out of county and that type of thing, Jesse and I are looking forward to going on some training at the southeast side of the state. So we are both of us are very eager to participate with West Shore's partnership. They're looking at expanding this space that we're in to add more robots, hopefully, and we can touch more people with those industry certifications that are still required right now. So Dale, I think if anybody has any questions for either one of us, we'd be happy to answer them, but I think I've kind of come through at the end of my presentation.
So thanks, Matt and Jesse. There was one question in the chat, which it looks like now there's another one. First question just was around the relationship with Whitehall Industries and how many of our students might wind up being employed at Whitehall Industries. So if either Mark or Matt or Jesse could potentially comment on that. And then the second question looks like it was answered in the chat. So I'll stop right there.
Okay, well, I'd be happy to answer that. And Dale, if you want to chime in too, you're more than welcome to. But at this point in our mechatronics program, we have 2 second years. Those second year students as seniors, they're both from Ludington, will be placed hopefully in an internship, COVID permitting, and more odds are that they will work with Mrs. Hughes and get placed at Whitehall Industries. Pardon me. That's not guaranteed that they're going to work in robotics. They could work in the design. They could work out in the tool and die shop of Whitehall Industries. So there's many different avenues. But I think maybe Mark could address a little bit about the amount of robots that they have at Whitehall and the potential for interns and career placement there.
Yeah, and I did answer a little bit of that in the chat too, but as we are exploring adding this at the college level, we wanted to make sure that there was that local employer demand. And so we visited with not only Whitehall Industries, but Floracraft, and have talked with others in our area to see which robots they were using and if there would be a demand for that skill set. And of course there's different levels of abilities. There are people who just simply operate the machines in the standpoint where you're loading supply material into the tray and then the robots are doing the rest. There's a level of ability where you have the machine goes down at 2 o'clock in the morning and you need to just reset it or get something adjusted so that it's up and running again. And then there's lastly the level where you're actually designing, fully engineering the motions that the robot is going through. And as I was describing earlier, those different levels between somebody who has the CTE level of education, the college associate degree, or Michigan Tech, that's kind of where you're getting to those different skill sets. So what we heard from the local industry, they have obviously a mix of needs for those. Whitehall specifically mentioned that they had the hardest time finding people who had that middle skill set, where if it's 2 o'clock in the morning and the machine goes down, they need somebody who's there able to get this up and running. And I think that's a perfect niche for us to fill. And so that's, again, kind of what we're going to be focusing on. And I think the skills that Matt showed that his students were doing, like with the bucket, that's tremendous advantage for graduates to be able to enter into a workplace already able to do those basic functions. And so I think they would have a great opportunity to get employed right away. But that's been the basis of our conversations with employers thus far.
Thank you. I have some concluding comments, but we'll pause to see if there's any other questions for Matt or Jesse.
Doesn't look like it, Dale.
All right, thank you. So yeah, Matt and Jesse and Dr. Kinney, thank you very much. So you can see we've got activity.
Thank you.
And working already with the robots and mechatronics. But the potential here is really big. And as Dr. Kinney described, it allows a pathway for students at different levels of education. So we can imagine a student sitting in a counseling office with his or her counselor in one of our local schools and seeing this opportunity to go right from CTE, go right through West Shore and on to a degree at Michigan Tech, a very clear and attainable pathway. It's just very exciting, and it will give some extra incentive to students to look at CTE and see some real jobs at the end of that at different levels. And they're high demand, high wage jobs, and that's the type of thing that we're supposed to be doing in CTE. Finding those opportunities and developing the programs to get students through them. So for CTE, our skin in the game here, besides the robots that we already have in place, is to keep our instructors and parapros trained properly on these devices that line up with industry demands. And so that's what we're hoping to do in the not too distant future, is train these individuals so that they can lead these students to those jobs. And so you'll be hearing more about that when that opportunity arises. Matt mentioned that there's some training available. However, we're restricted from traveling to go do that training now, but we hope that's in the horizon on the not too distant future. All right, so that's what we have for you on that spotlight. If there are any more questions, we'll be happy to take them.
Thank you, Dale. Jason, back to you for the rest of your report.
Okay, perfect. And thanks again for the presentation from the robotics lab, and I appreciate Dr. Kenny visiting with us. It makes some sense that we're going to go next to President Scott Ward, also from West Shore Community College, and I think everybody on the call probably knows Scott. We're very fortunate again to partner with the college on a number of things. And before Scott gives us a little update, I think it's probably appropriate to mention that one of the things that I appreciate about Scott and the chance to work with him is he is really interested not only in education, but really in community and economic development across our entire region. And the college has made some efforts in Oceana County and Lake County. And that's something that we appreciate because obviously that fits with the areas that we're most concerned with as well, along with Mason County. So Scott, I will turn it over to you, but wanted to share that appreciation.
All right, thank you. And usually we get to enjoy dinner together and a meeting on our campus. So the world has changed a lot in the last year. I think I'm a lot more bald, and what isn't bald is a lot more gray than you last time you saw me, but you might not see it on camera. But a lot of changes. So as an update on the college, we're very fortunate, I believe, is this last fall semester, we're basically flat in enrollment. And we're down just like 1% on number of students on campus, but we're up like 1% on the number of credit hours actually taken by students. Across the nation and Michigan, community colleges had seen about a 10% decline. So around the state, the average was about 10% and across the nation. So for us to be flat in this period is remarkable, and I give a lot of that testament to the partnerships that we have, including CTE, ASM Tech, and with our local school districts. So I really believe it's those strong collaborations we have that have made West Shore somewhat stand out amongst in the state. And I do want to mention a part of that is some of that collaboration. I really appreciate all the work that Dale has done for CTE and coordination of the COVID response CTE is doing with the college staff and everything we're doing on campus. So Dale's been doing a remarkable job coordinating everything on campus for your students with our staff. And I also want to just mention ASM Tech. Again, I spoke in their graduation this spring. I brought it up to our board, some of the same comments in our last board meeting. As our student government presented to our board with a strong representation of ASM Tech students on our student government. And I noted that in the graduation ceremony for ASM Tech, that when ASM Tech was formed, I thought it would transform the college of having an early college. So we're gaining students and we're gaining the head count and the credit hours. Not see the transformation that ASM Tech would do to the campus. And we really brought a strong cohort of students who are going through a program together, strong completion. But the leadership from that group is remarkable as far as the representation on our student senate over the years in other clubs. And last year, they really stood out in the number of awards they won, our student awards, as far as like the best science student and overall best student. It was really remarkable and a lot of testament to that strong program. And I thank West Shore ESD for seeing that vision and forming that program a number of years ago. So thank you for that. And you should be very proud of that program. Tremendous asset for those students who are taking part of that too. On the college side, after last year, when we met, we had just opened up the tech center renovations, and the students were enjoying that. We haven't enjoyed as much this last year, but we continued on some other projects. And this year, if you've been to the campus, you'll see a new water tower on campus. So this fall, we completed the connection to the City of Ludington water. We've been served by City of Ludington sewer system since 2002, and we just hooked up to the water, and it immediately could see the positive impacts across the campus on many levels on having clean drinking water and clean water in other systems on the campus too. And this week we are starting moving in furniture to our Manistee project, where we purchased a building in Manistee. We won't be fully occupied till mid-month, but starting to move in this week. And in that building, the Michigan Works, the Manistee Michigan Works office, and the Manistee Chamber of Commerce will be moving in too. And so not only will we have academic space that the college owns in Manistee, but we'll also firm some of those economic development partnerships with agencies that we collaborate with all the time. So we're excited about that, and really see that as a catalyst for a lot of development in Manistee. So we're really excited to see how much that effort we're doing is helping spur some other activities in Manistee and having the larger impact than we had ever envisioned when that. Other aspects I do want to say, and again, I think as you work with Dr. Jeffrey and the rest of the administration and the school districts there, all the efforts, I commend you all for the efforts you're doing in response to COVID, and the efforts to maintain that continuity of education, including in-person education for the lower grade levels. Whether I'm talking to national leaders at the state level, and certainly the medical profession across many spectrums, of talking about the importance of keeping those lower levels in education as much as possible, in-person education as much as possible. So congratulate you and the school districts for doing everything you can in spite of these difficult circumstances. Anyone who hears me often will know some of my talks about college student struggles are typically not tuition and fees. They're housing, food, and transportation insecurities, and childcare. So but those are also economic drawbacks in our community. So keeping K-12 open and operating safe is important for overall impacts on the students and their families and the whole economy. And it helps negate some of those insecurities that we're dealing with across the spectrum. So I've talked for years about those 4 insecurities, and over the last 6 months, I've really added 2 more, is mental health issues. And the college has taken several extra steps to improve our mental health services to students, and looking at how we can expand that reach out for our community, whatever we can do to help our community too, because we're seeing a sharp increase in those mental health issues. And I'm happy to say I'm not happy that we have another issue, but the broadband issue has really become a bigger issue for all of us in education, business too. And the efforts, both the college, West Shore ESD, Manistee ISD, and other partners are looking at how we can address that broadband issue across the region. Again, as Dr. Jeffrey and I get into these conversations with partners locally who are interested in these, it's always West Shore ESD and West Shore Community College represent larger regions. So let's make sure, as we're looking at what we can do, for example, in Mason County, we have to incorporate Lake, Oceana, and Manistee County. And I'm happy to say that the Manistee ISD, West Shore ESD, West Shore Community College, Pennies from Heaven Foundation, and other local partners are leading some efforts to see what we can do to improve the broadband capabilities across the area. So, again, thank you for West Shore ESD for all your support, Dr. Jeffrey. I wanted to keep it somewhat short, so I'll leave it there, and I'm certainly open for any questions.
There's one question in the chat, and the question is congratulating you on the expansion in Manistee County, and then asking, are there plans to do the same thing in Oceana County in the Hart and Shelby area? I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but if you can see it in the chat.
Well, those add a little more difficulty to us because Manistee and some slivers of Oceana are in our district. So being in our district is easier. Once you get into Hart, Shelby, we're out of the college district. But that doesn't mean we're not looking for the right opportunities, and it has to line up. So the Manistee project itself there was an available building, but we also, of that project, 20% of it is being funded by a private donation. 5% is coming in from an outside entity, the Manistee DDA. So we have partner funding coming in. We also have those 2 tenants that help negate our operating costs. So if we can find the right package deal, we're certainly always open to looking how we can expand our service. And, Michigan's somewhat unique in many states in that we have these educational deserts, which include most of, or for higher education, which includes, for example, Lake County, Oceana County. And so we recognize that's a problem. The right opportunities, but the right opportunities with the right partners, we certainly are interested, and actually have had some discussions looking at some opportunities. Nothing has lined up yet, though. So certainly interested, but it has to be the right opportunity.
And then there's just one more. If you can see the chat, Scott, I won't.
So, cellular coverage, it is available on there. I'm not sure if I think it would be AT&T, because I think Verizon covers the area pretty well already. I think it would be AT&T coverage. If they're interested, we built it and expected that for that. An interesting aspect on this water tower project is because we wanted to be out of the water business. The project is not completely all the I's dotted and T's crossed. When it is, we are actually turning the ownership of that water tower over to the city of Ludington. Otherwise, we'd still be in the water business. And the water business is something we don't want to be in. Didn't want to be in for a long time, and ever since the City of Flint issues, we wanted to be even out of it more so. So the City of Ludington actually will own the tower. We have agreements on that, including cell towers if they come on there. All that would go to offset some of the costs to maintain that tower. But certainly that would be something. And I did want to say on that, on a similar line, as soon as the pandemic hit in March, our IT staff made free Wi-Fi available in our parking lots, both on the campus and at our Reamer Public Safety Center. We are planning to do the same in our Manistee, around our Manistee building. Trying to hit that broadband issue that we're seeing is give these public areas where people can come in and get high quality Wi-Fi for free. So other ways we're trying to hit that, and certainly available to all the public. It's just not our students.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions for Scott? Not Scott, I want to thank you for taking the time to chat with us and fill us in about what's going on. And I want to echo Jason's comments about how much we appreciate your cooperation and the way that we can work together for the kids and the people in our community. And we did miss coming out to spend some time on your campus today, and hopefully we'll be able to do that again soon. So thank you so much.
Yes, it's and I didn't say I always do. This is really the best collaboration, West Shore Community College, West Shore ESD, that I've ever been a part of in almost 30 years of higher education. And I was in one of my recent board meetings when I've talked about several other collaborations we're doing. One of my board members mentioned that all we're hearing from you, Scott, is collaboration, collaboration, collaboration. And I was thinking, well, that's good, because we're all stronger together. But all those collaborations we're doing, this is really the premier one that really just fits and works the best for our community. So I appreciate everything from West Shore ESD too. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Jeffrey, if more for your report.
Yeah, last item, and we'll try to go quickly. Last thing on the list is just a required discussion around the extended learning plans. You can see the data on page 9 and 10 of your packet if that's something that you're interested in looking at. Bottom line on the extended learning plans, the plan is going to continue as written and as approved, with a couple of notations, and these probably aren't going to surprise you because you've seen some electronic communication about them. But one of the notations is we do have some Great Start Readiness program that's being offered virtually. It's being offered virtually due to quarantine in a couple of cases, but also in a couple of other cases, just to align with the delivery method of the district where the program is housed. In special education, we do have a couple circumstances there as well where we're offering virtually, and for the same reasons. And in CTE, you're aware of the public health order, and so we're certainly operating those programs virtually for the duration of that order. The only other required part of the report on the extended learning plans would be the two-way interaction rates. And across all three areas, the range is between 76 and 100%. If you look at the tables, you can see 76 is an outlier. In most cases, we're in the 80 to 90% range. So that's it, unless there are questions on the extended learning plans.
No, I don't hear any. Thank you,
Okay,
Jason.
thank
Do we have any written communications this evening?
We should have one written communication that Tracy would have emailed to members of the board, and that was something that we mentioned. I believe it was in Polly's report at our previous board meeting, and it was the letter from the school business official Principals Association recognizing Sam for voluntarily obtaining that Twofold County certification. And so I think this may be the second time you're hearing about it, but we did get the letter and we wanted to share it with you, and we wanted to congratulate Sam for taking that extra step.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any comments or concerns from citizens present? Trent, do we have any citizens present this evening? I don't hear anything, so if no one is speaking up, I'll assume that we don't and move on to educational services updates. Amy, you want to begin for us, please?
Yep. Good evening. Our report starts on page 11. This month, my whole report is just reporting out on our professional learning offerings over the last month. Just to note, everything has been offered virtually given the state of things right now. Just want to draw your attention. We continue to have really good attendance at our monthly principal meetings. This last one, Pam Mowell, our pupil auditor here, did a nice update and continue to put the information regarding count and things like that in front of our principals. We know that's been a huge learning curve and things change with that all the time. So we're hoping to continue to support districts in that. And then also in January, a new school improvement system for the whole state will be rolled out from MDE, which is called MyKIP. And so we are starting to get our principals on board with what that may entail. So also want to draw your attention to the really good participation in our new teacher series. Janie Manier is our new literacy specialist who took Jen Orton's place, and they are tag teaming to give support to our new teachers in the area. That was a request from our principals last spring. We know principals are really busy people, and as much as their intentions are great to support their new employees, time and other things often get put in the way. So we heard their call and are trying to really support those new teachers, and how timely, given that the new teacher experience is different than any other in the history of education. So we're happy to support that. And then lastly, we have a co-facilitation event going on. We have a distance learning playbook book club that Manistee ISD and ourselves are putting on. So Kim Reinhardt and I are collaborating on that. And our first session was so successful that the group decided they want to meet monthly around right now a text on leading and distance learning times. But after that said, we'll just continue on with topics as they come up. So I actually, following this meeting, are running to that at 7:00. So we'll be meeting tonight for our second meeting of that group. So excited about that collaboration and looking forward to meeting with that group. It's a great group of local administrators. And that's my report, if there's any questions.
Okay, thank you, Amy. Certainly have been, looks like you've certainly been busy. Excuse me. Kim, special education update, please.
Good evening. Thank you, Madam President. Special education report begins on the middle of page 12, where we have a chart that Pam Mall put together for you. These are the pre-audited count numbers from the fall. As you can see, numbers are lower than usual, and in discussion with Pam, we attributed that to students not reporting to the brick and mortar buildings for enrollment and attendance. So it's impacted in the count. And then over on page 13, we have an update on the reintegration program. We have about 8 students at this time, and we have an RI committee next week. Students are making progress, and most recently we saw some of them out doing bus checks and maintenance duties around the ESD, so broadening their horizons a little. Further down, we have a few pictures for you of the 130 iPads that were delivered out to our students that the board approved back in August. And in addition to that, we have about 25 hotspots that we've delivered out to our students so that they have connectivity. And teachers have reported increased participation in the virtual opportunities, as you could see in the percentages in the two-way interaction chart. On page 14, for staff updates, we have an SXI teacher that we would like to hire. Andrea Wagner. She's originally from the area and has been teaching special education for a number of years in a neighboring district, and she's excited about the opportunity to join the ESD team. So looking for your approval on that one. The final item for special ed is requesting approval for the position of a school bus mechanic. So this went before ABF on November 10th. And so now we're bringing it to the full board for consideration. Our current arrangement that we have for mechanic for school buses is Hoekstra has a mobile mechanic that works out of the MCE garage. And so there's some circumstances with that that led us to review the cost and long-term stability of that arrangement. And through that process, we realized that it made more sense for those areas to move it under the ESD. So this mechanic would service all the ESD buses and vehicles, MCE buses, and Baldwin school buses. And the proposal and job description start on page 32 in your packet for that position. What questions do you have for special education?
I don't hear any at this time, Kim. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you.
Dale?
Okay, thank you once again. Career technical report begins on page 14, and just a few comments here. You see a couple of different sets of pictures of our instructors and parapros doing remote education with students. Why I put this in here is to show you how much better this is than it was in the spring when we had to shift to it with almost no notice. The instructors and paras really worked to prepare here so they could figure out how they could support each other to do these virtual classes with students. All of our teachers are working with the paras in this way to give the paraprofessionals some ownership of certain phases of that. So the paras can monitor attendance, monitor student engagement while the class is going on, follow up with student phone calls immediately after the class sessions to catch kids who had some questions or perhaps didn't show up and wanted to check on them. They also can pair together to develop content. And so the one set of pictures you have is Matt and Jesse, who you met tonight. They're in the classroom running a session. Matt's at one station where he's got two different monitors going and he's got students there. And Jesse's on another device monitoring the conversation with the students. Another set of pictures there is with Megan Maltby in digital media and her parapro Tasha. Two different stations and two different rooms actually running those virtual sessions with students. And they're working really well in tandem. So we're in a much better spot than we were. One of the things in CTE though that teachers are having to figure out, statewide, is what can be done virtually and what really needs to be done hands-on. And so teachers of CTE all over the state have been trying to maximize the time when students are here for the lab and the hands-on learning and keeping the things that they might be able to do virtual for those opportunities. And that's kind of a challenge for them because right now we're in that little bit of a no man's land, hoping to be back in session next week with students face-to-face, but also realizing that that might not happen. So they have to pace their lessons out and then capitalize on opportunities for get those students back for hands-on. So I appreciate their flexibility, and I think it's going to pay off for kids in the long run here. And the other item that I put in there was a student council coin drive video. I thought about showing that tonight, but for sake of time, I'm not going to do that. But it's worth a look. It's a little over 4 minutes long. CTE teachers are so inventive. But student council wanted to do that coin drive. Unlike many institutions, you might just put out a coffee can and throw your spare change in the can here. They developed these really creative ways to do that, as you saw with the robotics, who was a winner of that competition, one of the winners. There's all kinds of other neat ones in there. Welding put together this ramp where you put your coin in and it flows down and it goes into a special receptacle, and it's just really inventive. So I just wanted to call your attention to that. Okay, that's enough from me. Thank you very much. I'll take any questions if you have them.
No? All right. Thank you so much, Dale. Excuse me. We'll move on to the business office update. Carrie?
Thank you, Madam President. So first off, I think, Dale, I need to have one of those coin counters in the central business office. What do you think? What I'd like to draw your attention to first is page 18. Page 18, there's a 3-year analysis of our special education pass-through reimbursement to our local districts. And if you look at the 2021 column, you will see this year's allocations to the local districts. In Kim's report, she provided the special education headcounts. And so we use those headcounts to determine our each district's pro rata share of those reimbursed costs. And, keep in mind that the benefit to providing this pass-through information to our local districts is it frees up funds in their general fund that they can spend in other ways than if, we did not pass these funds through to our local districts. So the grand total for this year that we're planning on passing through is about $1.6 million. And this amount represents 10% our total special education fund expenditures. So you can see then, it's a sizable amount and definitely a way for us to continue to help our local school districts provide high quality special education services as well with less impact on their general fund. Secondly, I wanted to bring your attention to let's look at page 20. So page 19 is related to page 20. In a nutshell, what I want you to take a look at is the pension system. So recently this information was shared with us through the Michigan School Business Officials. And one of the reasons why they're trying to educate folks statewide on this is because in the spring, when there were some large projected shortfalls, one of the proposals to solve that shortfall was to reduce what they call state aid section 147C. And basically what 147C does is it helps fund our current pension system. So on page 19, you can see, and this is fiscal year 19 data, 20, we do not have the audited data out yet. But in fiscal year 19, the pension system, the MIPSR's pension system is at about 60.4% funded versus 70, that statewide average, actually it's a nationwide average, which I've included that data in the report as well. So versus 73.4% funded. So what that means in a nutshell is that our state pension system, we've known this for a while. We've heard it time and time again that, we need to fund that pension system a little higher. And so looking at the chart, basically what's happened in the past is they've continued to increase that cost to the local school districts in order to continue to fund that. So that's the purple part of the chart. The orange part of the chart, the higher amount, that's actually what's, or the top part, that's actually what is from the State School Aid Act, Section 147C. So the plan is if you think about this in terms of like your personal mortgage, the plan is that this state pension system would be funded appropriately by 2039, as you can see at the bottom part of that chart. And so what would happen then when it's more funded appropriately in 2039 is it would be a positive impact to local school districts in the state of Michigan. It would lower their contribution. So you can see that the purple part where that the district's contribution is decreased. So, the statewide education is really just trying to have folks be aware, and you folks as board members too, when maybe you're working out in the community or talking to some of your association members or legislators, that we are cautious about repurposing those 147C funds because, that would have an impact long-term on our school districts as well. Essentially what that would mean is basically the equivalent of refinancing our home mortgage and extending out that debt longer. So just wanted to share that information with you and know that, there's some statewide education that's going on, and it's not necessarily an advocation to stay away from it. It's just wanting folks to understand the impact of refinancing that debt, and so that debt, causes a longer impact to our school districts if we repurpose those 147C funds. So the other thing I wanted to mention is building and safety protocols. So, Polly's going to talk in her report about some safety policies, but, we're continuing to follow the MIOSHA, OSHA, CDC, District Health Department number 10, all of the various reliable governmental and other sources of information to make sure that we're providing a safe environment as our folks are continuing to provide face-to-face instruction. And then lastly, I wanted to highlight in Josh's report. So Josh's report, the very last bullet, he is working with his statewide organization. I believe they call themselves MEDAL. He's working with those folks on what's called the MyConnect connectivity funds. So basically, we have a shared allocation, $184,000 within our region that our districts can apply for. We have shared that information out with our local superintendents and are fully advocating for utilizing those funds. And basically it continues to support connectivity out in our local region, whether it's, student connectivity or otherwise, and continuing to provide high quality, reliable virtual instruction. So any questions?
No, good job explaining everything, Carrie. No one has any questions. So at this time, and based on Carrie's report, I will entertain a motion that we approve Act 18 pass-throughs for special education funds for reimbursement to the local districts not to exceed $1.612761.
So moved.
Support.
I will support the motion.
Motion is made and supported. Any discussion? Have a roll call vote again. Shirley?
Yes.
Pat?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Vince?
Yes.
Ellen?
Yes.
The chair votes yes. Motion carries.
And
Polly?
Kathy,
Yes?
Jim's with us too.
Oh, you are. I'm sorry, Jim.
Yeah. If we want to include Jim, we can.
Certainly.
Jim, do you
Are you
have
there,
a
Jim?
vote on that? Well, he was with us a moment ago. I apologize.
That's okay. I certainly don't want to not include him if he's there. So
If I wouldn't have said anything, the connection would still be.
just
So
let
I'll-
us
I'll
know.
take-
Let us know if he
take
comes
the
back. All
Okay,
right.
sorry
Thank
about
you.
that.
No, it's not your
Is
fault.
he on the phone, Jason? Is that how you have it?
Jason, is he on the phone?
And he's back with us now.
Oh, Jim, would
He
you
is
like
on
to?
the phone.
Jim, would you like to vote on the motion to approve the pass-through money?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. All right, motion carries 7-0. Glad you're here, Jim. Polly, we have the human resources update, please.
Polly.
I think you're on mute, Polly.
Thank you. My husband will say that doesn't happen very often, but So we just a couple updates in the HR department this month. Job postings, we have just a few out there this month. The resignations and new hires, you've heard about those in some of the earlier reports from some of the other members of the executive team. Our new hire in the special ed department, we're excited to have a quality candidate there, and the potential of the school bus mechanic. That's a great long-term solution. And again, just kudos to Samantha and completing her certification. That's great to have. We have some great contributions started with the United Way, and we're going to have another push next week. So just to support our local organizations, and we want to continue that. So we do have some important updates as far as that connect to our comprehensive wellness program. I think it's been at least the last 2 board meetings, if not more, you've kind of been hearing the progress towards our ability to offer all staff affordable health care. Tonight is the official night. It's pretty exciting. You should have in your packet the resolution to join the West Michigan Health Pool, and that will be for the Ask Me group in the admin and other group. The EA group has decided to stay with Mesa for a year. But I don't look at that as a bad thing. I think we really have an opportunity to do some education and some support, and we've already heard some positive feedback from them, so that's great. But the other 2 groups have decided to go with the WIMHIP insurance group, and so what you have in your packet is the resolution to join, and that would make it official. So you should be able to look over that, and with Dr. J's signature, we can, in your approval, we can progress. So you have that in your packet. In addition, we have 2 new board policies. The first is policy 4225. MIOSHA, it recently passed some guidelines, and those guidelines aren't just explicit to education. Those are across multiple industries. And so when something like OCR or MIOSHA or state or federal legislation happens, we work with our legal experts, Troon, who are experts in the area of school law, and we say, how do we best implement this in a school system? They create board policy, so they took those new MIOSHA standards and said, how do we best implement this in a school? And they drafted that into board policy 4225. And so what you have in front of you is that's what we've been really using to guide our decision making and how to best implement those MIOSHA policies safely and to make our schools work. So that is board policy 4225. We've done the feasibility audit for that policy and reviewed those across the organization. But this policy really helps us be consistent in our decision making and with all of our staff members and employees. So that policy you have in front of you also. The second policy is policy 2305. Now, this is the first reading only for this policy, so you will see it again next month. And that's just updating the per diem rates that are consistent with the new federal guidelines, so that if you were to attend professional development out of town, we're following the federal guidelines to pay you properly for reimbursement on meals and things like that. So our old policy, now that we've moved to the Troon, our old policy had some amounts that weren't consistent. So for example, Traverse City was one of the more expensive places to eat in the state of Michigan, and we are paying less than what would be expected to be able to go to some professional development there. So the policy 2305 reflects the new per diem rate set by the federal guidelines. So that is the updates in the HR department this month. I will pause there and see if you have any questions.
Anyone have any questions for Polly?
No.
No, I don't hear. Thank you so much, Polly.
Yep.
Okay. Next on our agenda is the West Shore calendar. I believe, Dr. Jeffrey, that you are recommending for the addition of the 25-26 calendar.
We would absolutely appreciate your support with adopting the calendar. We have had that discussion with our local superintendents, and certainly with it being several years out, we would have plenty of time to amend if we needed to do that.
Okay. I will entertain a motion then that we approve the common calendar as
So moved.
presented.
I'll make the motion, Kathy.
Okay.
I'll support.
Motion's made and supported. Any discussion? Roll call vote. Shirley?
Yes.
Pat?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Thank you. Mark?
Yes.
Vince? Ellen?
There we go. I already got my mic unmuted. Sorry. Yes.
I saw the thumb. Ellen?
Yes.
The chair votes yes. And carries 7-0. All right. Next item is the extended COVID-19 learning plan reconfirmation. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
I'll support the motion.
All right. Motion is made and supported. Is there any discussion? And we will then continue to vote. Shirley?
Yes.
Pat?
Yes.
Jim?
Jim says
Jim?
yes.
Okay. Mark?
Yes.
Vince?
Yes.
Ellen?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Next item is the West Shore Health Insurance Pool. As Polly reminded us, as you know, the ABF committee met and recommended the adoption of this resolution. There's a copy of it was included in your packet. And so I will now entertain a motion that we adopt the resolution with West Michigan Health Insurance Pool as presented.
I move the motion, Madam Chairman.
Okay, is there support?
Second.
Motion is made and supported. Any discussion? Okay. Hearing none, I'll move on to voting. Shirley?
Yes.
Pat?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Vince?
Yes.
Ellen?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Motion carries. Dr. Jeffrey, do you have some personnel relations for us this evening?
I absolutely do. We would appreciate your approval to hire Andrea Wegener as a special education teacher, and Kim updated you on that in her report.
Yes, and I believe her resume was included in our packets. So if someone would care to make a motion that we approve the employment of Andrea Wegener.
Move to hire. Support.
Okay, motion is made and supported. Did you get that, Tracy? Must have. Any discussion? All in favor, I'm sorry, roll call vote again. Shirley?
Yes.
Pat?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Vince? Vince?
Yes. Yes.
Ellen?
Yes, and you can only vote once.
Now this is Chicago.
The chair votes once. Yes. Motion carries. Okay.
Unless you're dead, right?
Hang on.
Yes.
Next on our list would be, we are looking for your approval to create a new position to hire a bus mechanic. And this was something that Polly mentioned in her report and a discussion that we had with the ABF committee as well. So that would be on the table for your consideration.
Okay, would someone care to make a motion to create that position?
I'll make that motion.
All right, is there support?
I'll support. Support. Okay.
Motion's made and supported. Any discussion? Okay, we will begin voting then. Shirley?
Yes.
Pat?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Vince?
Aye.
Ellen?
Yeah.
Chair votes yes, motion carries.
Okay, almost done. Next on the list for your consideration is the MIOSHA compliance policy. That's Troon policy number 4225, and Holly mentioned that in her report. And that is one that we had a discussion with the policy committee about recently as well.
Okay. Someone care to make that motion?
I'll make
I'll
the
move.
motion.
Okay. Second.
That support then, Ellen? All right. Motion's made and supported. Any discussion? Again, voting. Shirley?
Yes.
Pat?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Vince?
Yes.
Ellen?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, motion carries. Last item.
Yeah, last one on the list, if we're going to have a compliance policy, then it makes sense that we have a compliance resolution as well. Not really, but we're going to ask you to act on this. I think you remember the compliance policy that we previously had, or that we actually have in place until the end of this month. And this is simply an update of that policy that reflects the change in the orders that we're following. Really from executive order to orders from the health department and other governmental entities.
All right. Someone care to make that motion?
I'll make the motion, Kathy.
All right. Is there
I'll
support?
support.
Supported by Pat. Is there any discussion? We'll begin voting. Shirley?
Yes.
Pat?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Vince?
Yes.
Ellen?
Yes.
The chair votes yes, motion carries. Any other business to come before the board? Hearing none, I want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and ask you all to please stay safe until we can be together again. Meeting's
Yes,
adjourned.
thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Back at you.
You're welcome.
Have a great night, everybody. Thank you.
Merry
Yes.
Christmas.
Merry
Merry
Christmas.
Christmas. We'll have to have a